Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hi and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Aaron Halevi, and I'm excited to be joining the team. In Pirkei Avot, chapter 1, verse 14, Hillel taught, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?" The last part of Hillel's statement is saying that we must respond to each moment as if it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, since we don't know what each hour will bring. If not now, when are you going to have another chance? On a deeper level, it could be saying that each moment in our lives is unique. Even though we might think the opportunity will return the next day, the context will never be the same. Rabbi Shira elaborates further on the importance of living in the moment.
One of the essential features of getting in touch with our inner voice is attaching ourselves to the moment. Now, attaching ourselves to the moment is a part of clarifying the past and the future. Now, the past and the future is chiefly made of projections of the mind that we don't know if they're going to happen or not. The past are recordings in the mind which may or may not have been true. So our real access to truth is through the now. What was is gone, and what will be, we don't know. But what we know is right here and now. So being in the now also flows out of the faith that the creation is being created every moment new. When we're in the now, I understand why we say that God is past, present, and future all bound together. By Hashem, by the Creator, past, present, and future are one. When a human being comes down in the soul into a body, now he's in a world of time and space, and past, present, and future are delineated. By Hashem, they're one. Part of our path is to elevate ourselves above the fear of the future, the fear of the unknown, and to elevate ourselves above the pain of the past and the disappointments and all the different emotions that want to prevent us from moving on into the now. When we can clarify those two, we can live in the present in peace and love and joy. Now, joy is a very essential teaching in Hasidic philosophy and in the Kabbalah, because without joy, the divine presence, we're told, doesn't rest on a person. So, of course, joy itself, what is joy? Most people assess joy or happiness as being, when I get what I want, I'm happy. But in Judaism, joy is a much greater thing. Joy is the recognition that I have a king, a father, a friend, a brother who wants my best, who wants to guide me and enables me to access places in myself that I didn't know I had. When I have that understanding, then I have joy in the presence of Hashem. Then I can be in the now. If I'm not in joy, it's very difficult to be in the now, because if I'm sad or if I'm worried or any doubt, those emotions are based on projections into the past or into the future. But in the now, there's only right here, right now. Me sitting here in my living room and you sitting in your living room, and all the abundance of the lives that you've all led have led to this moment right now. And where this moment is going to lead, we don't know. But I know that I'm here now, and I know that the presence that we all seek is here now. It might not be very well revealed, but I know it's there. And living in the now is a challenge because the mind always wants to jump, past or present or future. So what we have to learn to do again is to observe ourselves and watch. Why is it my mind keeps going back to that day in 1999? Why do I keep thinking about what's going to happen when I retire and I don't know where I'm going to go? So I have to start to explore those fears and those thoughts. And as I explore them, I actually become free from them. They become externalized to me. And that process attaches me to the now and to my higher soul, which is emanating from a place that, again, is from a unified realm. And that's what faith is. Faith is believing in something that I can't necessarily prove or access with my intellect. Once I know it and I believe it and I reassert it and reaffirm it over and over again, which is part of Jewish prayer, it's like they call it in medicine greasing the nerves, in neurology, where you practice a certain thing with your arm. You throw the ball enough times, your arm becomes expert in throwing the ball on its own. So too, in this type of work, we are greasing the nerves of the mind to always seek the one. We're no longer mifuzar, as in Hebrew, which means we're not scattered anymore. We're always going back to the one. We're always seeking the source of existence for the guidance that we need.
Welcome back to Simcha, a celebration of life. Within Jewish burial customs, there are two very important purposes. They help the soul of the deceased begin its journey in the world to come, and also provide a framework for those left behind during the mourning period. The physical aspect of this journey begins at death and ends with the erection of a tombstone above the grave of the departed. Ian Camisar takes us through the process of making a tombstone and the relevance of the inscriptions found on the stone.
In the late 1800s, when ministers were chosen to come here to this country, they were chosen from the chief rabbi of England. So the ministers in those days were mostly English, and they brought along their own customs. And the custom in England was to erect a stone just before the year of the passing. We call that the Yortzeit. It is two words, whether in German or in Yiddish. Yor means year, and Zeit means time, so it's a year's time. And when they put up the stone just a year before, usually on the very date of the anniversary of a person who died a year before, then they came and they consecrated the stone. However, one can put up a stone as soon as the 7 days of mourning are completed, and one can consecrate the stone after that as well. Some people ask me why we need to erect a tombstone, and therefore we have to go back in history. When Jacob came back to the land of Israel, on the way, his dear wife Rachel passed away. She passed away in childbirth, and the Torah, the Bible tells us that Jacob put up a memorial stone on the grave. The word memorial stone, matzeva, really means a pillar. And the graves nowadays, memorial stones, are called exactly a matzeva. So we continue that age-old tradition of putting up a tombstone like Jacob did so many thousands of years ago. The first thing that we do need to put on a tombstone is the Hebrew writing. You see on the top of the tombstone, you'll see two letters. That means here lies buried. Then we have the Hebrew name of the person who passed away, Natalie Kleiman, and her Hebrew name was Nadiva. And also we put the father's name. So it's Nadiva bat Yitzchak, Nadiva, the daughter of Isaac. Then on the next line we have the Hebrew date which she passed away. And then you see 5 letters. The 5 letters are the first letters of 5 words. And in the English, it means, may her dear soul be bound up in the everlasting bond of life. And afterwards, of course, we have the English inscription. And the English inscription is determined by what the family want on the tombstone. Here you won't see the Star of David, but there are hands on the top of a stone. These are the hands of a priest, and the Hebrew inscription, Moshe ben David HaKohen, Moses, the son of David, the priest. So therefore, we have the priestly hands. The priests in our religion go way back to Aaron, the first priest. When they came out of Egypt, the brother of Moses, Aaron, became the first priest appointed by God. And we know that whoever is a priest has descended from those times over 3,000 years ago. And that's why we have priest hands. They are formed in that way because in the synagogue, on certain occasions, the priests will go before the ark, spread their hands like the hands on the tombstone. They'll put their talit, the prayer shawl, over their heads, and they will bless the people. So that's why we have the hands on the tombstone. People can put on as many words as they want, and sometimes they put extra Hebrew words as well in order to tell us the person who they were and the character and the personality of that person. This stone is in memory of Cantor Max Badash. He was a cantor of a garden shul for many years and a great personality in the history of the community of Cape Town. On the top says, "Sweet singer of Israel, my beloved husband, our father and precious grandfather. He walked perfectly and he did so many acts of kindness." And then it gives you the name, the cantor, Moses, the son of the prominent cantor, Chaim Yosef. And then, of course, once again, like all the tombstones, we have the Hebrew date, and again, those 5 letters, "May his dear soul be bound up in the everlasting bond of life." At the bottom here, the family have written again in English, a life of Gemilut Chasadim, which means a life of acts of loving kindness, a man of great dignity, compassion and loving kindness. Devoted to the Jewish community, he touched the lives of so many. In this cemetery, you'll see different types of materials being used for the tombstones. Mainly, it's granite. The granite is quarried in Rustenburg, so we call it, of course, Rustenburg granite. If you look around the cemetery, you'll also see some tombstones which are made of marble, and here is one example of it. And if you keep going around the cemetery, you'll see mountain stone used as well. And it's usually the choice of the mourner to choose which stone that they want for their loved ones. As you go around the cemetery, you'll see pebbles, stones, placed on the graves. There are various reasons, but the main reason is to show that the person has been here to pay their respects to their loved ones. That is the main reason why we do these things. Now we're at the yard, and the next process will be to take these large slabs of raw granite, and then we have a large cutting machine, and the slabs are made to the size of the tombstones. After that process, we polish the stones to bring the beautiful grain out of them, and then we make the curbing of the stones. The underneath where the layer, the slab, goes on, and that's also polished. And here you'll see the actual tombstone, but on the tombstone we have to have the writing. And for that we get a vinyl printout, which letters is like a stencil, and we cut out the letters, which then go onto the stone, And then after that, it is sandblasted into the stone, and now the stone is complete, and now we can take it down to the cemetery where we will erect the stone. From the time we take the order and we make sure that the wording is correct and signed off, then the process will then begin, and it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to make sure that the stone is produced to 100% without any problems. People are very much bereaved at this time. They would like to talk to me about the deceased, and I put their minds at rest. And at the same time, they are spending quite a bit of money on this stone. So it's very important for them to know that the stone is going to be done properly, it's going to be erected properly, because this will be an everlasting memorial and will stand there for many generations to come.
Welcome back. One of the guest speakers at Sinai Indaba 2015 was the director of the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Jerusalem, Dr. Ephraim Zuroff. Since 1986, he has been responsible for uncovering the post-war escape of hundreds of Nazi war criminals to Australia, Canada, Great Britain, and other countries. Today, he continues to coordinate the center's international efforts to bring Holocaust perpetrators to justice.
The Simon Wiesenthal Center is what we call a classic Jewish defense organization. In other words, its aim is to defend the rights of the Jewish people, and its primary priority is to fight against anti-Semitism and the delegitimization of Israel. But having said that, and being named for Simon Wiesenthal, the famous Nazi hunter, we do also make an effort to try and help find and facilitate the prosecution of Nazi war criminals. And that's the effort that I head. And for the last 35 years, I've been actively involved in this effort, first working for the U.S. Justice Department in Israel as a researcher, but since 1986, heading the efforts of the Simon Wiesenthal Center to bring Nazi war criminals to justice. This is a global effort. This is an effort because a global effort because the individuals we're talking about are not only in the countries in which the crimes of the Holocaust took place, but they're also in countries of refuge, like the United States, Canada, Australia, Great Britain, even in New Zealand, even in Sweden.
I made an experiment. I took the names of 49 Lithuanian and Latvian Nazi war criminals, who I knew were Nazi war criminals, who were involved in mass murder of Jews in the Baltics and outside the Baltics, and I went looking for them. And lo and behold, in a matter of minutes, I was able to find the immigration destinations of 16 out of the 49 people.
I discovered a way to find the escape destinations of hundreds of Nazi war criminals, and all of a sudden, instead of being a researcher, I became a Nazi hunter.
One of the most horrifying things that I learned through my work is that 99% of the people who committed the crimes of World War II on behalf of the Nazis or in service of the Nazis are normal people. They lived normal lives before the war, normal lives after the war, but during that horrible period of the Third Reich, they did the most horrendous things.
The number of people who fit those categories are maybe, I don't know, 12, 15,000. And even if only 1% of them are alive today, that's still quite a few people. And let's say half of those people who are alive are medically unfit, that still leaves us with over 50 people. And these are people who were actively involved in mass murder of Jews on a daily basis. They don't deserve any mercy. They don't deserve any consideration. We owe it to the victims to help bring them to justice.
In 1986, the United States of America was already trying to bring these people to justice. There was a special agency in the U.S. Justice Department to do so. And I went to Rabbi Marvin Hai, the head of the Wiesenthal Center, and I said, listen, we have the possibility here to track thousands of Nazi war criminals and to present that information to Canada, to Australia, to Great Britain, to New Zealand, and to convince them that they must take legal action against the Nazi war criminals living there. They must set up special offices to do so. And the good news is that in 1987, Canada passed a special law to enable prosecution of Nazi war criminals. Australia, in 1989, passed a special law to be able to prosecute Nazi war criminals, and the UK did so in 1991. Once the United States started looking for Joseph Mengele, Germany joined the search, Israel joined the search, and at long last, a search was carried out, and lo and behold, very voluminous correspondence was found between Mengele and his family, and it turned out that Joseph Mengele had died of a heart attack swimming in the Atlantic Ocean in 1979. A person who was a symbol of the distortion, perversion of science on behalf of the Nazis. Someone who was a symbol of the Nazi criminality. It would have been one of the biggest trials in the history of the prosecution of Holocaust perpetrators. And the reason that this didn't happen was very simple: a lack of political will. The problem today is that most countries in the world don't want to prosecute Nazi war criminals.
It's still possible to find these people today because, as I often explain, the most dramatic development in that respect is the extension of life expectancy. In other words, if 70 years after the Shoah, after the Holocaust, were in 1920, there would be almost no Nazi war criminals left. But in 2015, there are quite a few of these people. They're in their 90s or their late 80s, but I always say there's no reason to ignore them because of the date of birth. The question is whether they're mentally and physically able to stand trial, and if they are, there's no reason to ignore them. Today, at this point, there's a trial going on in Nuremberg, Germany, of Oskar Groening, who served at the Auschwitz death camp. And this is one of quite a few cases currently under investigation in Germany in the wake of a change in German prosecution policy, whereby any person who served either in a death camp, and I mean, when we say death camp, that's a concentration camp with apparatus for mass annihilation, either gas chambers or gas vans, or who served in the Einsatzgruppen, the special mobile killing units that operated in the areas of the Soviet Union, can be almost automatically convicted. And the Germans have dozens of investigations going on. This is a change in German policy, and this will pave the way for numerous prosecutions, which I think is a very good way to conclude the final effort.
In the 5th verse of chapter 6 in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, it says, "Do not seek greatness for yourself, and do not lust for honor. More than you study, do. Desire not the table of kings, for your table is greater than theirs, and your crown is greater than theirs. And faithful is your employer to pay you the rewards of your work." Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. We'd love to hear from you, so drop us a line on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Aaron Halevi, and the team, we wish you a great week ahead. See you next time.